It at long last, FaZe vs. G2, another classic in the North American ecosystem, I suppose is the word I want. This one shapes up to be a good one every time.
All things come back to even here. FaZe sitting in a top 4 situation. I said yesterday that's kind of their ceiling and their floor. We'll see if they can break into a grand final today. Remember the stakes here. G2 beating FaZe would clinch the major for both G2 and Complexity.
So a lot to consider here. Obviously, Mist has been playing well defensively all weekend long. Caused a lot of fits for a few teams on Friday, and of course yesterday. And of course G2, we already know that offense, once it gets going, it can be pretty tough to stop. So a lot of good questions about what we're going to get today and who's going to step up. Move on into the grand finals as pumped over Mist's shoulder, and he will control this one on the backboard and take that G2 opportunity away. But it's a hard press here. And Chicago Atomic and JNABs trying to capitalize off that demo. Unfortunately, no gaps anywhere.
And I think it's a fair question to pose as Atomic does not make the save off his goal line. Mist will strike first for FaZe.
For sure, Atomic was going to get a handle on this one. He came back, had 100 boost, started heading up the wall, and that's actually why. I mean, it's not a bad move to go up the wall there. It's just exactly where that ball was placed. He already had an angle set, didn't have the time, was going too fast to adjust. And so G2 concede the first one.
What I was going to say was it's a fair question to pose for about G2, because I don't know if they were all that convincing on the back half of that Space Station series. It was smooth sailing, or at least what it felt like, and then G2, I think, really started to lose a lot of their control against Space Station. What a pass from Atomic, and the shot from Chicago's perfect top shelf.
Really puts him in the blender as well. I mean, Atomic, that's a great dish, and Chicago, way to let it roll. You know you've got the time. Mist is an excellent defender, but one-on-one, uncontested shot, having to defend the whole net, take your best guess and hope Chicago delivers big time, gets them back even. But you're not wrong, Corelli. Yesterday against Space Station, G2 started to falter a little bit. Does not seem to be the case, at least at the start here against FaZe. Definitely no trouble getting the offense moving.
And, you know, when I say that, some people might look at the scoreline and say, well, they traded blows back and forth, but it was really the context of that game. G2's game plan, I think, really started to deteriorate against Space Station. That's credit to Space Station. I think they did a great job of adapting in that series. FaZe certainly have been pretty one-dimensional with their attack, and it always works because of this guy right here, First Killer, sniping the top right corner.
Sacrifices his body for it, says, I need to beat the defense, and how about putting a dime in the top right corner?
Yes,
right before. Huge shot.
Good luck, defense. Have fun with that one. There's just no way you're getting up for that one in time.
Absolute juice from First Killer, and a lot of back and forth early on. It's not like it's really extended stays. It's kind of just a chuck it into the middle and see if you're fast enough to get there. The only goal for G2 coming off a strong transition play where they just won a big challenge. So I guess in that sense, FaZe, the ones moving the ball a little bit better early. They do catch G2 leaning left side, but the pass a little too far over First Killer's head. They get a couple of good boost deals, though. Should hamper G2's transition here a little bit.
Good physical play on First Killer to prevent the touch. Now he's coming up big defensively twice now. 2 saves from First Killer back-to-back. Turns away G2. Atomic, he's got no boost here. Looking for someone to bite. JNAB free jump. And the defense does well to read it. A lot of space. You can see how much time G2 had on the ball there with no boost. Atomic was just sitting there waiting for a FaZe defender to go for him. And that's what allowed them to set up the pass.
Take a little page out of that Gen G book. You get that ball on the nose or on an air dribble, and the defense generally just locks up because they got to respect the hard shot to the net with a flick or something. And JNAB's trying to get up there early, pre-jump, try and beat the defense. Now, that's a great play. I like that idea a lot. Jump to First Killer, trying to stretch, and he will convert the transition 3-1 FaZe.
Yeah, made it look pretty there. And G2, that was a big dive from Atomic, and he was nowhere close to getting the challenge. Leaves Chicago in a tough position against First Killer 1v1 with a setup touch where exactly he wants to put it, and a double tap to put it home. First Killer leading the charge here for FaZe Clan early.
Totally open in the midfield as well. Missed through one and pinched down across. No one's going to be quite there for FaZe. They will have to give a little bit of ground here. Delaying touch from First Killer, and G2, they definitely have a lot of time, but you'd like to see him get started a little bit more with the offense. FaZe starting to pull away more and more, at least in the terms of quality opportunities on net. G2 with 7 shots, only 1 on the board, and Only 4 saves required from FaZe, so G2 doing a nice job transitioning, but struggling to set up quality chances.
And you're seeing exactly what you would expect from this series. You're seeing some great offensive plays from FaZe, solo plays from First Killer, sniping shots, but you're also seeing a lot of control from G2, passing, looking for options, looking for space, and taking advantage of that space when it's given to them. So you're getting exactly what you want. Here's FaZe and Mist trying to get a double tap. They're looking to set up their offense. Comes straight up Typical. Can he put it on target? Atomic can't make the save, and it's 4-1 FaZe clan.
Man, Typical's just in a great spot for this one. He's on that open side of the field, all the way on the bottom, just covering that side, just in case they throw the ball to JNaps, and just sees that pinch challenge go straight across the middle, and he's just in a great spot to go and collect on it. I mean, it's not like that's really just right place, right time, and you put yourself in good position, good things happen.
And unfortunately, a weak challenge from Chicago there. He didn't have boost, so that was the best he could do. And of course, pitching out to the midfield is never what you want, especially with a guy like Typical behind the ball. G2, less than a minute to play. And I really don't think it's been a horrible game from them, but the scoreline would tell you otherwise.
It absolutely looks a lot worse than it's been. It's just been a couple of really nice plays from FaZe to get them through, and can't fault the execution. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap, and that might be what G2 has to do here in game 1. Now, that's just a mistouch from Chicago. Atomic will cover up on the backboard, but if you're G2, you'd like to spend the last 20 seconds or so on offense and say, okay, hang on, we just have to make sure that we can actually win some of these challenges against these guys, and right now, that's just not happening.
And don't get me wrong, there's been mistakes from G2. Poor challenges on that second goal from Atomic, nowhere close to it, left Chicago in a 1v1 against First Killer. That's no team in the world wants that. And those type of mistakes have come back to bite G2, but I think you made a great point, Chiefs. FaZe, this is probably one of the better games of execution we've seen from them. Yeah. Game 1, in full control for FaZe clan.
Really great showing. Can't really fault hardly anything from it. I mean, the only goal they allow is a quick transition where Mist is in a one-on-one, or essentially was a one-on-two, but if that's the only one you're giving up and you're hitting some of these shots like what First Killer hit, of course, what Mist and Typical were dishing out, I think you'll take that pretty much every time. In general, well played overall, and if you're G2, you say, okay, it's not too much of a fix. We just got to make sure we get more of our car on the ball when we're going and fighting for possession.
Absolutely. I don't think it's a huge change for G2, but for FaZe, if I'm in this intermission right now for FaZe, I'm saying, boys, keep playing like this. This is the expectation when you put a First Killer, a Typical, and a Mist on the field, and every single player played their role perfectly. I don't think there was hardly any double commits. They didn't look panicked on defense, which is the two biggest criticisms that we've had of this FaZe squad over the last year. And when you go up against a highly organized team like G2, they have the opportunity to break you down. I don't think FaZe allowed them to. They gave G2 some space and some time, but FaZe did a great job of staying behind the ball and not allowing G2 to kind of get their rhythm going.
Yep, they definitely weren't sitting there on their own half, giving a lot of time and space if G2 ever got the ball over there. They were definitely out there ready to go. So it's more of, you know what, fine, you want to get that ball to the midfield, go for it, be my guest. As First Killer finds a bump, and Mist just really trying to force something that isn't there. Challenging from way too far away, but there's that support from Typical, and now we'll really get to test that G2 offense as they try and start to get physical on that goal line. Unfortunately, just nothing connecting, and quickly thrown back onto the blue half, and that is a team bump. Mist says, tough.
Is it really? I was on Mist POV. I couldn't see exactly what happened.
To each other on the wall.
Oh, he did. Chicago T-bones Atomic. And that's what allowed that one to go in. It was kind of awkward to see as Mist shot wasn't hit with pace.
Yeah, that was, all things considered, a bit of a wet noodle of a shot.
G2, every now and again. I mean, that's another, minor mistake, one that you wouldn't expect them to make, one that I don't think anyone would, bet on in many of these series. G2 certainly organized in a lot of these defensive holds. In the first minute, a big mistake comes out. FaZe once again executing and putting away the first goal.
So G2, at least in general, apart from conceding, I think what everyone is willing to classify as a fluke off the rip here, they do seem to be doing a much better job at least fighting for the ball at the midfield line. They're not really getting pushed back into their own half too much, at least so far. We shall see if this first stint here for FaZe changes my opinion or not. Not appear so. Quickly out of their own half. JNaps towards the middle. Chicago misses a few demos, does get the boost steal, so you got to work hard here if you're FaZe to keep things under control. That's the right idea. Clear the ball high, get it at least past the midfield line, force G2 to spread themselves out.
You see G2, they want to bring that ball down the midfield. They're looking for options, but the challenge game very strong from FaZe at the moment. Another one stalled in the midfield. This will throw downfield. Opportunity for Chicago. Can he get it on angle? And he does. Perfectly done from Chicago in a tie game.
They catch FaZe leaning here. First killer's a little too far forward, and he realizes that, oh, there's no way I make it back in time, so I'm just going to have to try and get up and steal this one from JNaps, but no shot. Not 1 foot too far, and just dumped it off to Chicago. Great redirect, honestly. I mean, when you get a redirect like that thrown at you and you're so deep in the corner, can be quite difficult on every now and again to actually get that one in between the sticks, but doesn't overthink it, just goes far post to give himself the most time to get around it, and drills a great one.
To be honest, Chiefs, I trust Chicago with that shot 100% of the time.
Yeah, maybe it's just me.
G2 certainly trusting him there. Another one lobbed towards net. Easy save here for first killer. FaZe looking to go on the transition, looking to catch out G2 on the counterattack, but it's just not quick enough. They're not holding on to the ball, and now G2 trying to get a hold of it on their side. Typical, not allowing them. Here's JNaps looking for Atomic far side. Atomic tried to stretch out to get there. Still FaZe. An attack here for Typical is denied by Chicago.
And I do like that G2 on some of these challenges, I think they know they're not actually going to get there, but they know the right plays to put the pressure on them.
Yeah.
Instead of just back off. Just allow that counterattack to begin. The only problem is there is some of those challenges, while it's a good idea to pressure, they're not exactly forcing them to tip the ball into a place they don't want. So if that pace gets picked up at least a little bit from G2, you may start to see FaZe lose a little bit of control on some of these transitions. Nobody comes up with a touch as JNaps in first killer. Fight for possession of the midfield line. Mist really trying to stretch a push here, and Atomic, again, way late. FaZe really just moving the ball left and right, up and down the pitch to see if anything is going to break down for G2.
There's a lot of misdirection on FaZe right now. A lot of fake touches, fake challenges coming out from first killer, inviting G2 into the ball, into possession, or to attack the net. It's typical. One of the pre-jump, first killer never gave it to him. He was waiting for G2 to bite. Now G2 quickly on the counter. JNaps up quickly and doesn't put power behind it. Chicago, can he bail him out off the crossbar? Still tied, and FaZe able to break away.
I think that was it. Chicago definitely had a shot there into the right side of the net. Unfortunately, pings it off the post. Probably should have been a goal. But another one dumped to him, and this time puts the defense on skates. Everyone thinks he's going to chip it high in the net, and he just keeps it stuck to the floor.
I mean, to be fair, most players are looking to crush this one, and Chicago lets it go, gets the two defenders to bite on the power shot, and instead watches it roll by. Chicago using his brain there. And G2 in the lead.
Great bit of shooting from G2 as we do have a pause request. Not entirely sure what the issue is either way. G2 up one. I have to imagine that goal's not going to get taken off the board.
No, it was
see
G2.
Why it would.
G2 asked for it. Looks like Tom
okay.
had an issue. We'll find out what that is. But yeah, it looks like G2's calling for it. So I'm sure that goal will stay. And for G2, you could be happy here. I think in this game, they don't get as much control as I think they'd like, but it's working, right? I don't think that execution or just the chances are there for FaZe at the moment. I mean, they have one shot. Mist has a single shot and a goal. The one goal
Had
he's
a lot
scored.
of good movement on the ball, if you're
Sure.
FaZe, but you're right. That effectiveness is definitely tapered off from before, of course, you know, because I didn't necessarily feel like G2 were... Yeah, they're pressuring the ball, but I didn't feel like they were forcing FaZe to move the ball in a way that they didn't really want to. It felt like that was the only real play for FaZe. But at the same time, it is pushing that ball out towards the sidewall, out towards FaZe where they really can't track it down a second time. So I guess all things considered, it's working out. You're keeping FaZe that really kind of just pushed you around a little bit earlier on, and you've limited them to one shot. So it is definitely a marked improvement.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say here is I think for FaZe, it just feels like despite maybe some of the movement that we're complimenting, they're not putting the attack on the net, right? It's great to keep possession. It's great to go into the other side's corner, but if you're not attacking the net, you're not jittering the shots, and you find yourselves down 1 goal with 47 seconds left. So for FaZe, you got to get a little bit more dangerous on your attacks here. And for G2, despite maybe not wanting to play that control style to a T here, it's been a little more messy in the midfield, a lot more a bit more of a contest in the midfield here from FaZe. I don't think they're upset with the way they've been playing this game. It's the type of game they're going to have to play with the way with the play style that FaZe is bringing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they knew that I don't think they come in here expecting that, they're going to 4-1
right.
every single series. And even that 4-1 we were talking about was fairly tight. All things considered, it was just a couple of really nice plays from FaZe. I think they knew that they were going to play some tight games, and that's just because G2 in general has an excellent spread of the field, and they're overall, all things considered, a pretty difficult team to break down and get through. I mean, they have that aggressive layer of Chicago. JNABS can rotate through on that back line. He's a staunch defender. Of course, past that, who knows where Atomic is? He can surprise you from just about anywhere. I mean, he'll cut into rotation. He'll absolutely throw you for a loop and take one up onto an air dribble. And FaZe knows that G2 can cover a lot of different things. So they know it's going to take hard work if they want to break him down. And game 2, they may have just got bricked out a little bit here.
Every time we go to First Killer's cam, man, he's stretching out, he's yawning, he's cleaning his glasses. Camera guy's doing him dirty here today at Cheese. I'm not going to lie to you. My man's just trying to work, and boy, has he been working. Game 1 was stellar from First Killer. I mean, when a guy is so good like First Killer, it's tough to really talk him up because he gets talked up all the time. But that game 1 was impressive work from First Killer. That might be par, maybe in some people's mind with the way First Killer plays, but some good work behind the ball and some great shooting allows FaZe to build those types of leads. That's where FaZe win, right? And we talked about them having top 4 being the floor and the ceiling. They don't like that. They feel like they should be winning more. That's why they're making changes when they're finishing top 4 at majors. And they're sitting top 4 here in this regional, trying to qualify for a major. It wouldn't happen yet, but for FaZe, this team was built to be in top 4s and to succeed even further.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. FaZe has certainly all the pieces of where they can be one of the most successful teams in North America. I think you're bang on the money. It's tough to talk up a guy like First Killer because, like you say, when your bar is you're in contention to be the best player in NA pretty much all the time, how much more can you really give him when he's just that good of a player on the pitch? So at the same time, you look over on that G2 side, and it's like, there was a time in North American RLCS where JNABS definitely had sort of that moniker of definitely can be the best player in North America at any given moment. And I don't know if anyone's quite got that same star power as First Killer anymore on that G2 side. All capable players, and that's the real question is the floor a little bit higher for G2 or is it with FaZe? And that's kind of why this is such a tightly contested matchup that we were talking about all season.
And just so we know, it looks like we are going to be starting at 49 seconds at the kickoff. Atomic lost connection, and he is back into the lobby. So we will resume from a kickoff position. It is still 2-1 in favor of G2. The goal will stand. Of course, G2 was the one to call the timeout. It was Atomic who disconnected. And it looks like we'll get right back into it, Chiefs.
Excellent. All things considered, they just go right on after Chicago's goal, and FaZe, let's see what they can cook up here in the last 50 seconds, and it's already something dangerous. Tipped off the ceiling, and that one's off the post. Typical can't jam it home. Mist just can't quite get it in between the old iron sides, and FaZe going to be kicking themselves. I mean, you thought that was absolutely it. Another quick dish into the center. Atomic reads it. He's one-on-one where typical, and Mist is just trying to delay this G2 counterattack. Shots raining towards the net. Atomic will put this one away. It was so close. And then just like that, it's out of reach.
That was chaotic on the G2 defensive side. And then when we started complimenting FaZe from not double committing, they do it there, and it comes back to bite them. Atomic puts away a third for G2.
Man, that's tough. I mean, had a great draw up there. That touch off
what a whirlwind
was a brilliant idea from First Killer. I mean, that type of pass, that's going to be 4, and now you get the exact inverse of game 1. It's a 4-1 that does not belie how tight this game was.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? I think for FaZe, disappointing start to the end of that timeout. And then, of course, when it rains, it pours, I suppose, for G2. 4-1. As you said, the inverse of game one. FaZe beat G2 4-1 in the previous game. And that might be where the scoreline ends up. A little payback from G2. We got ourselves a series.
Yeah, definitely looking forward. Oh. Are we gonna, okay.
We did.
Like, we really gonna try and press this one, but no. They finally decided to continue on. G2 close out game two in, I don't know if it's necessarily stunning fashion, but it may be more accurate to say relieved. Because I think this one very easily could have ended up in overtime. They'll take that. You get a little lucky. Sometimes the shot doesn't come through for them. That's the hard part. You can draw up the greatest setup in the world, but you still got to put the ball in between the posts. And probably see it here in a few seconds. It's just going to scream off that right post from Mist. But first, you got to see how G2 broke everybody down. There's that beautiful redirect from Chicago. Put down and go ahead goal. Oh, we don't get to see it. They just give us the 3-1. All right, I understand. They want to do Mr. Solid and say, nah, we don't have to see it again.
It was great defense there from G2, though. You got to hand it to them. It was a little panicked, but that's what you have to do when you're in a situation like that, and they get the job done. So defense holding strong, looking good at the end of that game for G2. On we go to game number 3. A tie series score. Someone's got to break the deadlock.
Who's going to step up? First killer in game 1, JNaps. Great stop to start off game 3. Another hard shot from Mist. Chicago getting aggressive as well. G2, I think, just trying to spread the field a little bit so they can collect themselves, but they're losing a lot of the boost game, at least initially here in game 3. Don't really know if they've quite got the people in position to hold off a potential FaZe push. Dump down, another strong float from JNaps just to clear the field a little bit, and that's going to help them a lot in terms of getting their feet set.
And that little air dribble there from first killer might have been the most space we've seen since game 1 for him, and it really didn't add up to anything. He's trying to set himself up there again, but Atomic, that challenge game for G2. I talked about how good it was for FaZe in game 1. It has flipped back to the other side. First killer shot on target, missed there.
Wow.
To follow up, again, the defense of G2, rock solid.
I mean, that's a great read from JNaps. If that ball's on target, they get beat to the net, right? Because JNaps absolutely has to play that one off the bounce off the wall because they were too far forward. But at the same time, G2 willing to take a little bit of a risk, play slightly more aggressive to kind of match that FaZe pace. Say, if you want to beat us, you're going to have to do it with absolute perfect shooting. FaZe getting aggressive here. Great presence on this blue side. Can they try and bind up all that G2 defense into something, and the physicality comes through to knock off the support, and then it's a nice, free, easy clear.
First killer almost got that one across. Unfortunately, that touch came down on top of a G2 player. Here he comes again. Unfortunately, nothing on target, and you were mentioning it's great presence, great control, but nothing's attacking the net. Now Mist has a flip reset. It's gonna just barely get to the net as JNaps has an easy touch to clear it away. He's called upon again, and another challenge one for JNaps. G2 get out. JNaps wants to go all the way. He gets up over Mist, and first killer calmly takes this one out from his box.
Yeah, that's the right idea from Mist. You force the guy high on the air dribble, and then you continue through that path. You generally will end up getting a bump on the player. Makes it very easy for the person behind you to make the play on the ball. He's executing how to challenge an air dribble 101. Take notes, everybody.
And winning crucial challenges back-to-back. Now first killer over to Sypical, and JNaps ran interference in front of Sypical. And now JNaps comes again off the ceiling, never got back up. In a very tightly contested game 3 here. Nobody really having the edge, in my opinion. It feels like both sides testing the waters, but not willing to commit too hard. And nobody really having a clear setup. Another shot on target, but easily denied. JNaps, this guy's been everywhere. He's got 3 saves.
He is moving right now as first killer. Starting to get involved a little bit more right on that goal line. See if he can break down a few defenders. Double commit here from FaZe, and that means he doesn't really have a whole lot of support. Chicago will push him off the ball as well. That physicality looking good so far for G2. Has yet to pay any dividends. This one's going to be an easy read for Atomic. I should. It's easy for Atomic. The read itself is not. And Chicago chopped one down on the midfield. Atomic just a step behind the play. G2 finally starting to get some counterattacks here after that FaZe push. Like you were saying, there wasn't a whole lot on the net for FaZe. It was just towards it. And G2 looking stiff on defense. No one really can get them out of the way.
I don't think FaZe have gotten a lot of clean touches for setup, or if they did, again, it's not towards net. You're seeing First Killer take air dribbles straight into the corner, trying to get double taps in the corner. It's just too easy for G2 to read, or they're just not disturbed by it. Here's First Killer again. He's got Typical waiting. First gets through one now. Atomic quickly. G2 transition is so quick, and Mist knew not to push up too far.
Yeah, that's just great understanding. You understand that that challenge is coming with pace. Huge demo from Mist onto Atomic. JNaps was looking for him in the midfield. He's going to stop what could have been a dangerous G2 shot, especially late in the game. Overtime looming. Another dim towards JNaps. Atomic trying to get physical on the goal line, and Typical just tracking that one all the way across the pitch to make the stop. You have to say G2 has the edge here. FaZe only 3 shots. G2 on 8.
Oh my.
And if the scoreline is 0-0, First Killer trying to do it himself. It's going to ping pong around, and Atomic will recover and figure it out. Clear the ball, but FaZe isn't quite done yet. Typical's getting bumped around by JNaps. First Killer can't drop the hammer on him. Chicago will close the gap. FaZe somehow kept out of the blue net.
I can't believe First Killer turned that into a dangerous shot. He picked up the full boost, went up over the ceiling and back behind the ball, backflipped it into the back wall, and then land on it. I mean, seriously, who comes up with that?
It's an improviser's world, really. We just live in it. First Killer off the ceiling. Here's Mist again, just trying to beat that G2 defense, but too much space. Typical having to come from too far away. First Killer has recovered after grabbing some boost in the midfield. He will just try and open up more space with some physicality. Mist should have an uncontested touch here. As I say that, of course, Atomic takes a big bite out of him, and FaZe, it's really going to throw off the timing, but they still beat Chicago. Typical just has to get around Atomic, but he's so consistent off that backboard. Excellent read to clear the space.
And Mist knew, once again, he dropped deep for FaZe to watch the counter from G2 because it's so quick. G2 do so well with one man back because the 2 men in front of them, they sit on the sidewalls and wait for clears. And it turns around so quickly. Another double commit there from FaZe. This time it doesn't hurt them. That should have been easily communicated, and now everyone pushed for G2. First Killer trying to turn this one around quickly. Typical shot on target, but an easy save. His 4th for JNaps. He's got 4 saves and 4 shots in this game, JNaps does. Been insane. 6 saves for Mist alone on the FaZe side, and a crushing challenge from Mist.
Whoa.
And a missed touch from Atomic won't go through for FaZe quite yet. Been a couple missed touches from G2, but it hasn't cost them.
Well, that's a tough one for Typical over his head, but he does get right in front of Chicago. Shuts down all the shooting lanes. First Killer, hard cut down the middle. Atomic, easy enough save. Just a little floater into the midfield. Unfortunately, it will cost them their corner boosts here. Didn't seem to have worried G2 overly much. Chicago stalls one out for JNaps, and again, great reads from FaZe. First Killer and Typical combining. Make sure to get that ball all the way to safety. Typical can't quite connect on the flip reset. Mist was lurking. Once more, that G2 defense. Just got looking at him, and that's the right idea. The only way you're getting through him, or so it would seem, is to hit him. As again, another two from FaZe this time, and missed it. First Killer. Have to figure out who has to come and save that one, but FaZe, it's 1 inch from out of control, and every now and again, it's looking like disaster territory.
It feels like they're not communicating when there's 2 guys back defensively. They keep going for the same ball or both not committing. Like we said, hasn't come back to bite them quite yet, but that's been a mistake. Now the flip reset over to Typical. Shot was denied by JNaps. Another threatening look from FaZe, but ultimately fizzles out. Mist wants 2 off the back wall, does get it. And again, G2 breaking it up.
At JNaps' timing as he's rotating back through the defensive line, puts himself in great spots. At least get up in someone's face. First Killer almost cut that one down. Here's the transition for G2. Typical's up so early, though, and it's actually going to work out quite well. just really took a guess there and totally stalled what I thought was going to be a fairly dangerous counterattack from G2. They had FaZe rotating back, not really set on defense, and somehow they were able to buy enough time to really get themselves in position. Jumped off the sidewall, now the ceiling for Atomic. First killer again, cuts that one down. They had Chicago, but the shot wide. Typical just goes to try and stall the ball out. Chicago wins it again. Dumped forward, first killer, one-on-one. Chicago cannot quite execute and get the high flick over first killer. Great defensive save from him.
And that's scary about G2. They will flip you around and quickly go back the other way if you allow them, and Chicago is slicing and dicing through FaZe. The game's gonna slow back down here into the midfield, and almost 4 minutes of overtime, and it feels like no one's closer. Maybe Chicago can make the difference. Will be denied by Mist.
All clear from FaZe. Oh, that's a big missed touch. Hard cross, and Atomic just covers as many options as possible and is able to stalemate the ball out to the midfield line for his teammates with a clear. Atomic seeing if he can find some demos on the back line, and first killer, red idea there, just dump the ball upfield. You never want to let Atomic be rotating around behind your team. Strike like lightning from anywhere is missed up aggressively off the ceiling to try and free Chicago on the backboard, but got an unintentional second touch and may have thrown off the line from whoever was playing support for him.
Yeah, it was a great idea from Mist. Not executed well, but he saw Chicago on the backboard, didn't want to commit to it, just give up the ball. They tried to get that one to come back down into him. Now a demo comes out for JNaps, but it's poke free from first killer. Here comes Chicago. Can he put it down? And it's not on target. Still G2 looking to threaten here. Despite no one scoring, there's been a ton of shots, and a lot of them have been saved by both sides. There's 12 saves for FaZe to 12 shots, and here comes another one across the box.
The one time it actually gets through in a perfectly scoreable spot. Nobody there for FaZe. Having to spend some time to go and collect boost on the other side. You never really expect the transition to just come through for free like that.
Overtime getting extremely long here. Over 5 minutes.
Oh, the bump. Okay, hello. I should have known this was going to make it back. He's been rotating deep back all game. You've been talking about it.
Yeah, he's been sitting real deep, and now he's actually pushed forward getting demos on JNaps. But he's been a savior for FaZe multiple times now. Stopped the counter, won some big 1v1s defensively. Here's JNaps. This one almost throwing off the defense of FaZe. And now Typical. Nobody there to receive the pass. First there was the last man, he didn't want to commit. Now G2 quickly trying to attack again. JNaps from the sidewall, Chicago to follow up. And Mist will poke it away for FaZe.
Well, nice challenges in a row for FaZe. I mean, everybody on the pitch reading the game incredibly well so far. Chicago and Typical eyeing each other in the corner. This one rolls through. Typical's just got to put it right side, and FaZe will come away with a Game 3 win. Took them 6 minutes and 12 seconds, but finally G2 blinked first.
And Mist just poking it through the defense here and got a great bounce towards the center of the net. A tap in the end for Typical, and FaZe Clan finally break the deadlock here and take a series lead.
Woo! I didn't know who was going to win that game. That
Can we have timeout?
Anything.
Can we call timeout? My goodness.
What was that? 16 shots for G2 and 14 for FaZe. So a lot of back and forth, but obviously give a lot of credit to Mist there. That's 8 saves.
Yeah.
JNaps doing his best on the other side, 5 saves, and definitely the save game a little more spread out evenly for G2, but back line Mist. It's not often you get to see the guy with 1 assist and 5 shots be on the top of the scoreboard, but you start racking up those epic saves, 75 points each.
I know. I'm surprised he didn't break 1,000 points. Got to 905, but my goodness, defensively, FaZe wasn't pretty. Let's be honest, wasn't pretty, but they got the job done, and that's all that matters here. Mist was a huge part of that for FaZe. On the other side for G2, again, don't think this was a bad game that they lost. I think they were playing quite well. I thought defensively G2 looks much stronger. Just a little
more put together.
Mishap in the corner there, kind of got poked free, and between 2 defenders, what can you do?
Yeah, generally, I mean, I think I'm with you there. I think G2 overall had a lot better looks on defense, felt a lot more coordinated, because again, those weird double commits from FaZe obviously didn't come back to bite them in that game, but who knows? That is definitely something that you can't really afford to happen, because all it takes is one kind of miscue like that in a game 7, and then boom, you're out of the tournament right there. So I guess it's better to have it happen early so you can talk about it and understand how you need to fix it and later, but something to keep your eye on. It's FaZe rotations on defense and if they're communicating with each other.
So far, G2 could be happier with their performance than their last top 4 performance against Gen G. Certainly a different opponent as 2 go there from FaZe, and it still somehow works out for him. Now Typical has a free ball at the top of the box, and he drops it down. JNaps once again. My goodness, that kid is a brick wall here today against FaZe.
Ooh. G2 doing the smart thing, letting that ball just roll across. Just kidding.
Wow.
Terrible idea. Atomic doesn't realize Mist is camped out on the other side, and G2 concedes first.
And what a pre-flip from Mist just to get this one on target. He wills himself towards it, and Atomic, like you said, I don't think he ever saw him or knew he was going to be there that quickly. He might have had a mental note of where Mist was sitting, but didn't expect the pre-flip. And FaZe out to a lead.
Atomic is no slouch of a defender either.
No,
to be sure. Like if he thinks you're going to be there, if you think he wouldn't jump to try and block that, you're dead wrong. Just a great play from Mist. Go up there and take a big play to get yourselves on the board first. Now, what do you do if you're FaZe? I mean, is that the earliest lead that they've had so far? I'm not sure, but
well, I mean, you definitely want another one.
Yeah,
I feel like
certainly against GT. Oh, you might get it there, Mist. Big press, but I don't know.
I mean, of course, the philosophy is you want to score goals, obviously. But I think the assumption here is that G2 is probably going to break through at one point. They've been really great on offense. It's going to take more than one.
Almost never enough against a team like G2. That's for sure, but wouldn't be surprised to see them at least be... You do have a little bit of leeway to say, okay, let's make sure we iron out those defensive miscues we've been having at the very least. But you're right. G2 starting a pre-jump to get up there early and beat the defense, and it will pay off here. They tie it up.
They are quick with these passes, and Chicago knew that no one else was getting the touch, and that extra touchdown to Atomic seals the deal for G2. And they get one back. A response comes quickly.
Typical already having to make one diving save across the net, having to go try and make a second one. That's the old advantage of position as First Killer will make the stop. And looking for a gap on that backboard, Typical again. Positioned quite well. It wasn't so long ago that Typical was the third man for Space Station Gaming, and you're touting his defensive prowess. There's a surprising amount of people who are incredibly good defenders on this field.
Yeah, and maybe even a bigger role on that Space Station squad was the shooter for Space Station so long ago. Just closing out the plays when they're set up, and in essence, there's some similarities here for FaZe, but when you have a guy like First Killer and his execution, he's going to put away a lot of the opportunity. Here's Typical lobbing this one towards the net, and he just beats him over the top.
Not often you see Atomic overstep, and I think he definitely thought Chicago was going to get another touch on that. Otherwise, there's no way he's cutting forward, and he just got that ball taken off clean from Chicago's nose, and Atomic says, my bad. Misread.
That's what happens when we say how great of a defender he is. He'll get beat over the top. I don't know. We cursed him. The caster curse.
One way or the other, G2 going to have to find another answer here. 2 minutes left. Plenty of time to do it, and they've definitely had the press in general for the past, I don't know, minute or so. It definitely feels like they've been the ones in the driver's seat. At least camped out over on the orange side, if not necessarily generating a lot of chances. Trying to get physical there on the FaZe goal line. It's just poking and prodding at that defense from FaZe and see if, who knows, maybe they double commit again and allow an equalizer.
Yeah, FaZe just kind of lobbing it towards G2. If a solo play comes out of it, great. They can regain possession in the corner of G2, even better. Try and win a couple challenges. G2 are doing well to have a guy downfield on the outlet. Here's JNaps. Can he dunk it? They've always got an option on the clear as Typical makes a tough save look easy.
you cut this right, now you just throw it into the space and see what you can find. Fortunately, not too much. Now it's JNaps was ever last game. This game, it's typical Mist now getting involved. Chicago, he's got some places to pick from. He said, how about Atomic's hood?
All of FaZe were out of this play. The net was wide open, and Chicago comes in so slow that he knows he's not going to get the power, and he drops it on Atomic's head and says, hey, flick this one on for me. And G2 find an equalizer.
You're typical right there. You're just like, oh, come on. That's not fair. Because you're right, because you can see Chicago coming at that so slow, so he has to hit the brakes, and another shot coming off that FaZe defensive line. A pinch up to the G2 side. FaZe trying to go right back into the offensive press here. Close it out in regulation. Hard touch into the middle. Nobody there for FaZe. Fair enough. Want to make sure that they're not caught out either. JNaps, great positioning. They got a little physical with first killer on the goal line, so it may be G2 who gets the last word. Kicked across off the ceiling. Atomic overdoes it. It's straight down the middle. JNaps is just in the nick of time. Another pinch out in front. Last-ditch effort. Chicago's got a hand up. First killer is going to go for the spike.
Goodness. No way!
What? First killer, what a touch. Typical. Will collect.
Oh, he's so good. Look at this touch from first killer, and Sippy saw it all the way. Oh my goodness.
Oh, you don't get one of those every day. That's the one where when we have those freestyle competitions and all the freestyles trying to hit that touch straight on target. First killer says, nah, just go across the middle of the field. Teammate will collect it. Much easier that way.
That's kind of what we've been saying. How do we talk up a guy who's doing stuff like that? 2 saves to his name, and the second one, a game-winning pass over to his team, and G2. Yeah, I'd take a timeout after that one, too.
Yeah, it's like JNaps has to be so frustrated, because it's not like he was in a position where he couldn't go and attack that ball. He was camped up there on the backboard, and he was behind the play. He could dive across with that pass, and what can you do? The placement was so good. It's typical, found the only open spot in the net in the top left-hand corner. Fair enough. I mean, I got to take a timeout as well. Just be like, we're not losing. We're not getting absolutely smashed by FaZe Clan. They're just making good plays. And sometimes you just need a moment to collect yourselves and say, I really don't think you have to change anything if you're G2. I think you've got a winning game plan.
And let's just, since we have some time here, Cheese, reiterate the stakes here. G2 beating FaZe would clinch the major for both G2 and Complexity. If G2 doesn't beat FaZe, then Complexity can clinch by beating Gen G. So still opportunity for Complexity if G2 doesn't win here today. The storyline's a little bit longer for FaZe if they win here today, but so far, so good. And I think if we're talking about G2 in this overtime, in this timeout, I feel like the message has to be something along the lines of, hey, we're not necessarily playing poorly.
Yeah,
like, I don't think any of these games have been bad. In my head, when I think of this game and I look at game 1, I say, boy, those are some really good plays from FaZe. You know, first killer slotting it top right in game 1. You had Mist kind of poking it free. You had that second touch from first killer in this game that flicks it back to the other side in immaculate fashion in 0 seconds. I mean, for G2, the message can't be, hey, we're not playing great. Sure, maybe they're not playing to full potential right now, but I don't think it's that bad.
You're certainly not playing bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm with you. I think G2's got the right idea. They know what they're going to get. Because I think the idea for G2 is like, look, if FaZe are going to have to beat us, we're going to make them score plays like that, right? You're going to have to force first killer to hit the perfect touch out across the middle of the pitch and have someone actually be there to slot it top left. They had defenders if you're G2. It's not like they were out of position and they could do absolutely nothing about it. It needs to be perfect. And when push has come to shove throughout this series, FaZe has executed.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it comes down to.
And it's important to kind of give them their kudos on that, because I feel like that hasn't been the case with FaZe. The execution hasn't been there. And in a series like this where you're playing G2 in a top 4 situation, especially after your previous regional, I think there's some extra pressure on FaZe to perform here.
Well, they may get one back.
That execution is so crucial, and Missed again a little floater beating G2 here in the box.
That's just a straight air dribble. I mean, yeah, it's aimed at the top right. In Chicago, you can see he's diving across that goal line. He got scared. He wasn't sure if that was in or out, and he didn't have a lot of boost, so it's not like he could just wait. Took his best guess and unfortunately went careening all the way into the back of the goal, so he couldn't save the second shot. And it's like, yeah, you can say Sypical didn't execute there, but he certainly executed good enough.
Yeah. Got the defense moving. That's what matters. Here's Sypical again. He'll just blast it downfield.
Is there
no options there.
Scoring first again, I believe.
Yeah.
I think that's... Have they... I think they scored first every game.
Just about. They've been extremely strong in the first minute or so. G2 seems to have crumbled in most of these games. Here's JNAP's shot off the post, and it will throw an arm and climb in.
That's the right way to put it. You see that big pass across, and you're like, that's got to be a goal. And you see it going left, and you're just like, oh, no. Takes a great hop, like you said, just slingshotting back across the net into the far side. JNAPs will collect. G2 find a quick equalizer. I think that's what you need, because you never want to take that timeout, get scored on in the first minute, and then play for 3-4 minutes with getting absolutely nothing done. So, sigh of relief, breath of fresh air if you're a G2 fan. You're right back in this one.
Well, and you know, in all these games for G2, they've been able to respond. They've been able to put up one against FaZe. They might be able to get another one here. JNAPs, who's been playing so well for G2 today, both offensively and defensively. It's going to have to come up big here. Atomic. Typical, just poking it by, and G2 looking for the long ball. JNAPs into the corner, and it's met by a missed clear.
Typical just trying to back pass that, but he actually really kind of threw that one to the Wolves, and thankfully no one in position for G2 to capitalize. Trying to regain some footing here. If you're a G2 fan, it may come through with the physicality. Typical tries to go and get out early. First killer with the right idea. Rotate across the back line and play support for whatever comes your way. If they hit the shot, they hit the shot. And FaZe get out of a sticky spot.
The last man on both teams have been so important on the transition because the transitions are happening so fast for both sides. You see Mist, you've seen Atomic sit so deep when they're on offense just so they don't give up a one over the top, as it's happened to both sides now.
G2 not quite done pushing just yet. First killer and Mist. Trying to clear the space. Pace of play has slowed down at least a little bit. Seems to be that control is the name of the game for both teams now, trying to limit the possession. The opposition, Chicago even taking his time here. He says, no one's coming for me. I want to try and catch this ball. And unfortunately for him, he didn't get good enough control of it. And now FaZe has surged forward, trying to capitalize on that mistouch.
Oh, good touch by Mist. He was the last one there, and it almost squeaked by. Here comes Chicago. Mist doing well, just to get any touch on that ball. Prevent the transition, the counterattack from G2 that we've seen really bite FaZe a couple times. Here's Typical back wall. Looking for follow-up, goes over all of G2. Mist will choose the back wall against once more, and it's Chicago who clears it away. Big clears, big touches, I should say, from FaZe, but nothing in front of the net, no follow-up quite yet.
It is get that ball out of here. See that pressure start to creep in. G2 knows we're about to hit last life here. 50 seconds. One goal could be the decider. They're certainly going to make sure that they have all their ducks in a row. Atomic to JNAPs, and that's an excellent ball. Bottom left corner, absolute ice.
And this is where G2's scary. Chicago finds Atomic, free flip pass over to JNAPs.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, left shot side, and put away by G2. 47 seconds left, and the offense comes alive.
That is so hard to have the ball coming right to left, and you get the ball on the left side of your car to keep it going further left. That's that was a thing of beauty from JNAPs, but everyone misses the ball.
They all went.
FaZe could have scored. They get a piece of Chicago on the way out, so G2 doesn't have a free security goal here, but FaZe, I don't know if they should have scored there, but it certainly felt like it.
They literally struck out. All three of them went for that ball, and nobody got a piece of it, and I know a few of them were stretching. They knew the net was vulnerable. Now a shot missed off the crossbar save, and things starting to get dicey here for FaZe. They're able to break out with less than 10 to go.
Solid enough clear. Huge pinch across. Mist is playing a little too close. He can't make the adjustment. Trying to float one into the middle for Sipical. That's a slow ball. First killer trying to get it bouncing. Unfortunately, it's going to kick flat. It will go all the way to game 6. G2 Esports hit a beauty of a transition and earn themselves another 5 minutes.
Wow.
Look at the scoreline. We had one earlier where Mist is on 900.
Right.
If that doesn't tell you that this one was boom the ball back and forth and see what happens all game, I don't know what was.
For FaZe, I mean, I don't know what happened there. Felt like you had to score that one, and so they forced it and ultimately couldn't come up with it. But man, this passing play from G2, it's a work of art. It's what they do. It's the hallmark of G2 right there. That passing play, if I showed that play to a lot of people that watch this game, that watch North American Rocket League, I think more than half would say that's a G2 passing play. That's just what they do. That's what they've always done. In any iteration of the roster, that's what they've always done. And it works so well, and it just flows down the field into the opposition's net.
They move it quite efficiently up the field when they've got the space. They executed brilliantly. Find that go-ahead goal. Beautiful shot, beautiful passing. And FaZe, maybe a little bit frustrated, can't score again off the rip here on Neo Tokyo. But not done yet. Ball for Typical Atomic. I have no idea how you figure out where that ball is going, but he has made a huge save.
Well, it was shot in his vicinity. And FaZe trying to keep their streak going of scoring every game first. Here's first killer. He's up quickly and denied by the defense. Atomic will get demoed. Typical trying to capitalize. First killer. Can he get it by? He does. And FaZe once again score first.
Just said press the go button. Great demo from Sipical, and Chicago kind of giving up on the ball right there. He had no boost, so maybe he just realized it was pointless. It was better to go try and defend the net on the back end, because I think he just knew that with that demo coming through, no one was going to be back there, so he took his chances. Unfortunately for him, couldn't quite cover up. And FaZe once more out in front early, sub 1 minute into the game. We'll see. That will lead them to success this time, because they get into game 7, start to get a little bit worried if you're FaZe Clan, thinking, I don't know, is this another one where we strike out in top 4? Because if there was ever a series where you're thinking, yeah, FaZe should probably move on here, it's the series where they get up 3-1 early and they're looking good.
Yeah, I just would go another one that would go down in history for FaZe that kind of slipped away from them. There's been a few like it, where you feel like all signs point FaZe, and then it just slips away, it crumbles. Here's first killer. He's going for the touch or the bump. I couldn't tell, but doesn't matter. Miss. They'll get the goal. And FaZe double up their lead.
Touch. I mean, Atomic really just kind of dumps this ball forward. JNaps is already forward on that FaZe half. He's collecting boost in their corner. Chicago's dead even with Atomic in the midfield. And that ball just gets punted straight down to FaZe. And I don't know, that was just a weird setup from G2, and I think combine that with an awkward touch from Atomic, and Chicago just thinking maybe Atomic had more control and was going to pump that one towards the backboard or something, thinking he had time to grab that boost in the midfield, and that one just broke down from a decision-making standpoint somewhere along the line.
And now G2 really find themselves in a tough spot. Missed again. Puts another one away. 3-goal lead here for FaZe in 2 minutes.
Now, if you tank this one, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, there will be Reddit posts if they don't close this one out. Let's just put it that way.
You got a long way to go. If you're G2, you have to just be sitting there shaking your head. And they're going to get one back.
There's one.
Now you kind of write it off. Okay, you were down 3, but you pretty much scored instantly off the kickoff. So it's the same situation. You don't feel too bad anymore. And it's so funny. You go from completely dejected to, okay, it's doable.
Yeah. Well, and exactly. I was about to say, you kind of neutralize the pain putting that one away early and quickly. Plenty of time for G2. Oh, no.
Whoa, okay.
A pass from Atomic on his own goal line. Chicago's what I'm going to call it. It certainly wasn't like that. when they drew it up. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. G2.
Well, hello, J-Naps. Now it's G2 trying to get up there early and put FaZe in some bad spots. They may have just done it, but Chicago doesn't have the boost to cover up. Now he's got to sprint back down the center line and try and hold off a first killer with a flip reset off the wall. Mist is denied by J-Naps.
Mist has been the follow-up man in this game for FaZe and in multiple games. Threatening there from first killer. Now typical to the sky. Gets his air dribble yoinked by Atomic into the back wall. G2 able to slow down FaZe here for a little bit, but yeah, they're not holding on to the ball here. FaZe still coming up with it. First killer in pursuit. We'll let it go for Sypical. Sypical now pops it up. One of the pass, and it's just denied by Chicago.
Breath of air here for G2, but now it's all about that support player, because you already know that highly unlikely that first player for G2 is just going to get through completely uncontested. A minute 40 on the clock. It should be deep rotations for FaZe. Now there's hardly any reason to press, at least extremely hard, and now's where you really put all that pressure on G2 to come up with some perfect plays, some perfect motion and movement to get through this defense. And there's a ball. Typical, already aware of where that one's headed. Time is a-ticking.
You can see the passing plays being set up for G2, but FaZe are doing a good job of clogging up the lanes or winning those challenges and preventing the attack from continuing on for G2. And now, possible pass here. First killer going to take his time with this one. Less than a minute now. He's demoed. And G2 looking to press on. Atomic over to J-Naps, and a pre-flipped shot will be denied by Sypical.
Delaying touch, unfortunately, throws off Chicago's line. So Sypical's going to steal all the boost on that FaZe side. But actually, everyone from FaZe kind of spreads out and gives this transition lane for G2. It actually goes across the goal line, and understandably, Atomic not thinking that FaZe is just going to let it cross. G-Nips has a chance, and Mist is there. Killer will dip it towards Sypical on the goal line. Made you have your heart stick in your throat for a second, but FaZe had that under control.
And G2 just looking to score. Time left on the clock here. Remember, they got a quick kickoff goal early, or after the third goal. This one's going to drop down.
Okay. Oh, that'll do it. That high clear is going to absolutely tank it. They have to waste so much time repositioning here, and indeed, that will close it out. FaZe get on the board early, applied extra pressure, found 3 goals in under 2 minutes in Game 6, and they will knock off G2. J-Nap, Chicago, and Atomic played a pretty solid series. Wow, across the board. First killer, Sypical, and Mist were not to be denied today. It's a top 2 finish this time.
And I'm not going to lie, I'm not even going to say it. They never left. They're not back. They had just a trip up in the previous Winter Open. They're looking good here in the Winter Cup. FaZe Clan taking down G2 is a high-quality win in 4-2 fashion. And I really like the way they started off each of those games at Cheese. When they get that first goal, that's really important. Something that I don't think you see a lot from FaZe 2 is just starting off hot. And I think they did here against G2, and that's exactly what you got to do to beat teams like G2. They find themselves in a final.
Yeah, excellent job all across the board from FaZe Clan. A well-deserved appearance in the grand final. Who knows who their opposition is going to be? Gen G or Complexity? Find out in just a moment. You're watching the RLCS NA Cup. We'll see you in a bit.